Hello, and welcome back to Goalie Interference. Mike McKenna of the Daily Faceoff is here. What's up? Nothing.
What did you just say to me?
I said, what is up?
What's up? Actually, my second screen is up because the thing just went haywire.
I tell you what, so you're saying you actually looked up and then I didn't catch on to you looking up and I'm an idiot now. Got it. Okay.
No, I think this is a combined, let's just go to the backwards hat.
I follow here. I follow now.
We're like 4. Yeah. So what's up, man, is that this is going to be a pretty interesting year to follow. And I know we're going to get into reasons why, but we're going to have a lot of interesting discussions this year, I think. I really do. And there's plenty to break down from the past games of the last week. There's going to be a lot more throughout the course of the season. My feelings on that. So, Ken, you can take it away now if you care to. I've had quite an evening. We were at Boo at the Zoo at the St. Louis Zoo, which was really nice. Yeah, my kids had all pumpkins everywhere and all that, and very festive. But it's back to hockey now, and that's just hockey. Yes, good.
I mean, I'm not a big Halloween guy, but I enjoy that kids like Halloween. I hung out with my niece all weekend, and we were teaching her how to trick or treat. That was enjoyable. She put on her little cat outfit. It was probably the cutest thing I've ever seen. And it's like every once in a while you think, oh, I want to have kids, and then like she'll go nuts and refuses to be not held by her mother, and I'm like, yep, I'm in good shape where I'm at with these 2 little Yorkies that are on my lap at the moment.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, there's definitely days being a father where I look at myself in the mirror and I go, why did I do this to myself? And then your kids do some things that are just the most adorable, and then they melt in your end.
It's kind of a hit or miss, kind of an up and down situation, right? Which, speaking of that, it actually reminds me of a certain hockey team that we may follow here. The Golden Knights had their first, what I would call, measuring stick test, whatever analogy you want to use, playing a team that's a very good team, a team that is together, is dangerous, is well coached, is deep, has a good goaltender. Like, there's really not a lot about the Calgary Flames that you can look at and say, ooh, there's a hole there. Golden Knights go in there. The first period, yes, they get out of it 2-0, but it's a complete whiff by Markstrom on the glove save. The other one is just a great play by Brett Howden. I'm really impressed by that. And if we see more of that, I'm going to change my opinion on Brett Howden in a hurry. But as a whole, that period is won by Logan Thompson more so than anything. Then as the game goes on, it just kept rolling in the wrong direction. It was a snowball that just kept picking up over and over. And it's like, the better team was not the Golden Knights on that day. And it's the first chance we had to see against a really good team. And the depth of the team did not show up. The stars didn't show up. And really, outside of the goaltender, that's really all we had in that game. And so we'll get into that. But just your feeling of that game as a whole, like, does it change your opinion on the first 3 games at all?
No, because you look at the first one and you have to look at the quality of schedule. There's no way around it. I mean, Vegas look who they're playing. I mean, you got LA, who they're middling. We'll say that. Okay. Like, that's a team that, like, to me, I know a lot of people thought they had a lot of juice and picked them kind of high. And I still think that they're in a growth stage. I don't trust their goaltending, all that. So I think that, like, realistically, that game being 4-3 between LA and Vegas was probably about bang on for a lot of this year. Because I think those 2 teams are going to be right in the mid-pack of the Pacific. That's what I expect.
I would agree.
But I mean, Chicago, that's a laugher. Okay. That team's horrible.
On a back-to-back, too.
Yeah. I mean, and like Seattle, Seattle's actually got some decent juice offensively. Like, that Beniers kid Matty Beniers is awesome. He's fun to watch, man. He's really good. Yeah. And they've got some underrated players, like Eberle's pretty good and some others, but come on, it's Seattle. Seattle just sucks defensively.
Well, and the matchup is really bad against the Golden Knights. Like, we've seen it time and time again. It's 5 times now. It's just a bad matchup. They cannot stay away from odd man rushes, and that's how the Golden Knights score. It's just a bad matchup. It is.
So, like, let's basically throw the 2 crap teams out the window, and I guess the good news is that they at least beat the teams that they should, right? Like, so, like, you can't toss that out the window. Like, they took care of business.
Got your points,
and I thought they got the points. I thought they looked good. Thompson grabs a shutout, and I thought, Hey, man, I thought Aiden Hill actually
Good.
played. It's not that I've never thought he's a bad goalie at all. He's a good goaltender. I think that there's pieces to his game that have needed to be a little bit better for him to really become like a stud in the NHL or number one, right? Mm-hmm. And like one of those is rebound control. And I thought he was actually better with it than I'd seen in that game. And he controlled and managed it pretty well. So I was pleased with those. But like what you run into now against a team like Calgary, it's line matchups. And this is where you really see the depth. I mean, like, the Eichel line was basically like, if you just look at stats, you'd say serviceable, but then you realize they didn't do anything. Like that's really what it comes down to. Is that
I was interested which word you were going to choose there. I think serviceable might even be fair, but like might even be being nice.
Well, it is because here's how that works. Like if you go out and you more or less float around, you don't give up anything terrible in your direction, which that did happen once or twice, but like for the most part, they were kind of like just even, but like you need your top line to dominate. You need your top line to be your best line. The hard part for the Golden Knights is that the second line, Stevens and Stone, how like they got crushed against Calgary. And it was that matchup against Kadri's line.
Yep.
For the most part. And I think you're really seeing that Nazem Kadri, to me, honest to God, one of the best players in the NHL right now.
Good.
Like last year he was. It's not a fluke. He looks unbelievable. And the guys that are with him have taken on a bigger role. Like Dubé looks fast, and Mangiapane is
good in that game.
Yeah, Mangiapane is just a puck hound. Like that team is just deep and
they're good,
balanced. And right now, Vegas, the skill on Vegas can't keep up with it because the best skill on Vegas doesn't work as hard as Calgary's. And it's not as deep right now.
Is that fixable?
I do expect growth within the Golden Knights this year because, there is still the newness of Cassidy coaching. I don't think these lines are set in stone right now. I still think that they're going to. I think Cassidy's going to have to find the magic combinations here because to me, like Mark Stone's line should never be on the negative side of games. It just shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And I think at some point you're going to have to make a super line to be able to carry pace of play in some capacity. And,
Cassidy have it as an option. I'm not sure it should be an everyday, all the time thing, but I do think it has to be an option.
Yeah. And, it's nice to have Will Carrier back in, all that. Like,
they were good.
And I don't know where Paul Cotter's going to fix, but I love that the guy plays with energy, but I just think it's kind of, it's a team with a lot of good players right now, but not cohesively great. And against a team like Calgary, man, that's troublesome, and, you look at how some of the goals went in and like, one of them, Theodore just flubs one out of the zone. And then 10 seconds later, it's down your throat and missed coverages and, a couple goofy things, but you even really see how good the power play is for Calgary and how really Vegas just isn't clicking right now yet. Like to me, it's against Calgary, it's a lot of perimeter. It was outside. And no matter how many times I see Riley Smith skate through the middle of the ice to get things in motion, like right now, it's just not there yet. And I'm not sure if it will be until like, I wonder when they really load it up, right? Like at some point you're going to see Kessel, Eichel, Stone, Pietrangelo.
I don't know about Kessel and Eichel together. And to me, like I wanted to dive into Kessel a little bit. Like he's a guy right now. Like he's not any better than most of the guys that we spent the entire offseason wondering what we were going to get out of them. Like who's been more impactful this season, Paul Cotter or Phil Kessel? Like I don't think there's a debate there.
Oh, I didn't expect Phil Kessel at 5-on-5 to really be a big factor this year. And frankly, you're not really paying him to be, but he's playing first line minutes. And so
he has to be if he plays in that role. If he's next to Eichel, he has to be. And
yeah,
how is like I don't know. I just don't know where the fit is. And I don't know. I never loved the signing in the first place. I'm not opposed to it because it was so cheap. But like it just doesn't seem to fit, and it doesn't fit what Cassidy's doing. It's yet another example of like the front office and the coach aren't always on the same page, it seems. And that's seemingly a pretty good example of it.
Yeah, I don't think the coach has a whole lot of say, is my guess. That's just my guess.
I would say they should.
I believe that coaches generally don't get enough say because they're considered to be expendable. and the team is constructed by the general manager. I mean, Barry Trotz got sick of coaching.
Not me.
Yeah, Barry Trotz got sick of coaching in Long Island because he wasn't getting any say on players, and he didn't think he had the horses to make it happen. And it's been pinned. Like, here's the crazy thing about the Islanders is people talking about Matt Barzal, and when he got his big contract, I wrote a piece on how it was a bad deal, way overpaid. Like, it was a Lou Lamoriello. He's $1 million extra a year.
Yeah,
and people are like, "What are you talking about? He's a great player. He just needs some offensive players to play with him. He played for the Barry Trotz system and this and this." And it's like, Alex Ovechkin had no problem filling the net up under Barry Trotz, right. Man. Okay, like
Oshie.
Yeah, give Barzal some players, and he can do it. So I think you kind of see that with Vegas right now, that it's just this lineup just isn't there. Like, I don't think I have any other way to say that against the top teams. I don't know if Vegas can outwork them anymore. I don't know if they can out-hit them. I don't know if they can out-grind them. You're not going to out-grind Calgary. Like, Lucic and Richie were all over the place, dude.
They were very good. It was a weird game that the fourth line was the best line for both teams. And I think you're right. Like, Kadri's line did a lot. I didn't see a ton out of Huberdeau, but I felt like every time he was out there, they were in the offensive zone. Here's kind of the question: is how long till they go back to the misfit line?
Boy, I'm curious about that too. And I'm not sure how you break it up otherwise, right? Does it turn into, do you put Chandler Stevenson on the wing with Eichel and Stone if you start moving pieces around? Like, is that the answer? And then bump the Kessel down to a third line? I mean, I suppose I could see that. I'm not really sure where it goes.
They're short a winger. I don't think there's any argument there. They're short a winger.
Yeah. Yeah,
and today,
they're short Max Pacioretty.
Or Evgeny Dodonov, right? And it would be better if it was Pacioretty. But like today in the Athletic, Granger had an interview with Foley, and Foley basically said that they could be potentially looking at a $3 million winger forward. He said at the deadline, and they're already looking at that. I think the fact that you've come into the season with that already as an understanding of what you need, and you were not able to fix that in the offseason, it would be interesting to me. Like, we've talked about it a little bit. We kind of look back. They ended up with Kessel. I'm not the biggest Kessel fan as a hockey player. Love the human. Guy's hilarious. I love every bit of him, except for I don't think he's the perfect player for them. I think Paul Stastny would have been a much better option for this team. And I feel like had there been a better exit with Paul Stastny and had things gone better down the road, he does come back. He lives here. He skates on this rink. Like, I think that they kind of missed the boat there of not making things good on the way out for him. And now you're seeing it kind of hurt them a little bit here.
Yeah. Stastny was not coming back. He was not going to sign with the Golden Knights. That's my belief.
That's a problem.
It's just when you plan on retiring in a city, and then and then you're the cap expenditure because your old buddy from St. Louis, they need the cap space for him. Like, that's a tough go, man.
Right.
So, I feel the same about Phil. Like, I think Phil's one of the greatest American hockey players of all time. Kessel, truly, I really do believe that. But I really, at this stage of the game, my personal belief is that I think you could play some third line minutes with him and use him on the power play. Like, that's where I think he fits.
But how does the third line, like, what is the makeup of that third line?
And I don't even know. I'm just thinking, like,
out of Kessel, he's got to play with guys who can score. And I don't know that there is any makeup that can do that aside from giving him Marchessault or Eichel, or I guess maybe Stevenson. Like, maybe you can get away with Stevenson, Kessel, and Cotter. I don't know who the other one is.
We don't know. We're throwing spaghetti at the wall on this for it. So,
and that's why it hasn't happened, in my opinion, to this point. Is there's just not a good answer. You do throw the spaghetti, you do spin the bingo wheel and see how the pieces fall, and every time they fall, you're like, I don't really like that. And even the ones that we have, I don't think I know I don't like it. I don't think you like it. And I'm not sure Cassidy's in love with it at this point. And you saw it last night, what the downfalls could potentially be.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like, here's a mention in our comments right now. What about Jesse Puljujärvi from Edmonton? It's like, well, is the answer somebody who just absolutely disappears and doesn't necessarily work the hardest? Like, no, that's not the answer. So where they're at right now. I mean, I think we kind of need to look at this roster and go, this is what they have, and it's on Cassidy to try to get this to jump a little bit. And the bottom line is it's going to be a frustrating year in a lot of ways because they're going to look really good against some teams when they play a team game, but they're going to win a lot of games 3-2 or 3-1, I think. And you can't, like, that game last night was bad. Okay, like, I'm not going to call that a good game. Like, Logan Thompson legit kept them in that game.
Yes, he did.
And I got to tell you, like, that was a really inspired game. It was fun to watch. There were 2 of those games last night. Okay, so you had, and I mean, I'm speaking from a goalie's perspective, and I'm giving a quick tangent here, but I'm at the stage now where I like to talk about the whole league a little bit, at least. Like, you had Logan Thompson playing in his hometown of Calgary against the Flames, and he was juiced, man. Like, he was amped to play that, you could tell. And then down the road, you had Eric Comrie playing for the Buffalo Sabres against the Edmonton Oilers in his hometown of Edmonton, and he was sick too last night. Like, I've got a piece up at Daily Faceoff about Comrie and the game he had. But they're totally different. They couldn't be more different goalies. Like Comrie's 6'1", patient as can be, plays pretty upright, versus Thompson. He's 6'4", 5, and he's just low and dynamic and explosive. And it's fun to watch the difference in him. And, like, Ken, I don't know if you want to show it, but I clipped this for everybody to see. I just screenshotted this picture because I think everybody will probably remember this save on Toffoli that took place in the first, which was just incredible.
Fantastic.
Oh, man. And the best part is the way I've been there with these saves where, like, no matter how strung out you are, you're going to make this save. And when it ends up in your glove and you snap it like that, dude, you're just, like, in control, right? You're up 1-0. It's in their face. But I wanted to point it out because, like, this is a really good example of something that, at least within the goalie circles that I've been in, we call aerial angle. And if you look at Toffoli's blade where he's shooting to where the crossbar is, and I put the line in the middle of the crossbar because that's kind of an accurate representation of where the puck would go. You see Thompson's glove is, like, just underneath this. It looks like there's a ton of space up above, but as Toffoli goes to release this puck, Thompson's glove moves up 2 inches to grab this, and there's no space up top. So, like, it's just one of those kind of things that I like to point out sometimes, that this theory of aerial angle is that, man, even if you're strung out, if you're in trouble, if you can at least get close and get above the puck, you can take that space away. And it's a great example, though, what Thompson does really well is that his puck tracking is excellent. Like, he very rarely loses sight of the puck. He's really locked on it. And that's why he makes so many saves with his arms and legs. I mean, he had another one like this in the third period too. Yep. He got with his arm, kind of the similar type of thing. So, anyway,
there's actually a, the puck tracking data and that type of information that they're supposed to eventually have, and that was there, and they previewed during a Sharks Golden Knights game back in 2019. We've still not seen it. Apparently, in that, at any moment, you can stop the game and look from the view of the puck at the goal. And I think that would have been this would be a really interesting one to do, because from the image you have up on the screen here, it looks like that should be a goal all day long. Like, he's got 50% of the goal to shoot at. There's a ton of space up above the glove. But your point is, when you look at the blue line, to get it up there, there actually has to be an angle to getting it up there. It doesn't just magically jump off the ice and go straight in. You have to actually get it up there. So if we had the angle where we could look at from the puck looking at the goal, I think you would see a lot less goal on that. And that's a very interesting point, in that his glove looks way low, but if it's up an inch, 2 inches higher, which it ends up going, he makes that save. There's actually barely anywhere to shoot. It's a crazy concept.
Yep. It's cool. And I mean, like, Logan's got great hands, like save on Kadri. It's like Kadri coming through the middle late in the first period, gets his glove on it the same way. That's what makes him so fun to watch and dynamic. Like, I can pick apart every goalie. Like, I still think Logan slides too much. I think he, can kind of take himself out, but he's able to recover and get back to home base when he needs to for it. So it was a great game by him. But I'm concerned with what we're seeing, not just like from players, but like even like Calgary ate up Vegas in the neutral zone, and not just like breakouts from their end. Like we're talking like turnovers in the neutral go the other way, and it got Vegas all spread out, which kind of really caught me off guard.
It's the opposite of what we had seen in the first 3 games. That was not happening at all for 3 games.
Exactly. Like that's why I was surprised to see it. But against a team again like Calgary, that's so disciplined in their structure, so talented across the board, it shouldn't be surprising. So the crazy part about Calgary is like they've had so much turnover, dude, and there's just like still clicking. Like it doesn't even matter, you know?
So, yeah, I mean, it's high profile turnover. When you really look at the roster as a whole, there's a lot of the same players on there. The defense is not all that different. It's the high profile names. The 2 biggest names are gone. 2 other big names are coming in, and then Uyghur comes in with them. It is
Uyghur's a big part too.
Uyghur was fantastic as well last night. But let me shift gears a little bit and get to the Golden Knights defense. But before I do that, I want to tell you that this episode of Goalie Interference is brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. Jimerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms specializing in high-stakes civil, family, and why do I get this wrong every time? High-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. I've said it like 7,000 times.
I don't know.
You would think that it would be in my mind and I'd be able to read it, but I can't. I really can't. And then it's over there, and I don't want to look over there, and it's an absolute mess. When winning and reading matter, you should go to the Jimerson Law Firm. Seek out the Jimerson Law Firm. Go to Jimerson Law Firm's website. Just Google it. You'll find it. They are the best. I wanted to shift to the defense as a whole. There's 2 different pieces of the defense that I want to look at, and I'm going to let you choose which one we're doing first. And that is the defensive zone coverage when they're in their own zone. There are some issues there that I want to discuss. Have been good. There are also some issues. And there are also the other side, which is they have 1 goal in 4 games from their defense, and it's not really generating a ton of chances as we have seen in the past. Do you want to go defense playing offense or defense playing defense?
Let's go defense playing offense because I believe we can touch on that quicker than we would defense. Historically, from what I can remember without looking at statistics offhand, I do believe that Cassidy's teams, despite having talent on the backhand, having McAvoy, having a couple other that can move the puck, I don't remember Boston typically having defensemen that drive their scoring.
They were not. I have done the article. If you search SinBin, Cassidy defense or something of that sort, defensive scoring, they were significantly lower than the Golden Knights and definitely under league average.
Thank you. So there goes the statistical backup to that. I mean, it is a very forward-heavy system. But, you know, you watch the game and you're like, okay, this guy had some shots. Like Pietrangelo is a great example. Like he's had some shots. But the shots that I see coming from him are coming straight from the point. And unless those get tipped in or something crazy happens, like you're not going to see goals scored that way. And we haven't seen
to me.
Well, and that's where like that second wave on rush chances was a lot of the reason why defensemen were scoring last under DeBoer. They scored on rush chances. They would score, you know, really driving down the wing. Like even with Zach Whitecloud, remember he scored 3 or 4 goals last year. Pick it up, drive it, put it underneath the bar. We're not seeing that right now because typically, like under Cassidy, at least with my eyes, it looks like, you know, that half wall, that top circle area, like really gets occupied by the forwards and more of a driving towards the net type of situation. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and believe that there's a problem that the defense haven't had the same type of scoring just yet. But I do think for a team that's built like the Golden Knights are with such strong puck movers, I would like to find a way to include them more often or give them more free reign to do so. Because, I mean, to me, that's Pietrangelo down the side a little bit. I think, you know, Theodore's still your shake and bake type of guy that's going to score in that way.
Walk the blue line, yeah.
Yeah, but this is a team that's pretty sound, and it's just not there yet. And, you know, Nick Hague has not found his stride yet whatsoever. He had a real tough outing.
Defensively, he seems all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as he keeps his stick in his hands. You know, it's a snarky response. I get it, but
you're not wrong.
But I think that like he's somebody you'd hope would be able to under this system to just bomb away. You know, like he's not a guy that needs to be in motion to score goals.
Like,
just unleash the fury, you know, because that guy's got a piss rod, man.
I think the the fact that they're not scoring, like, I wouldn't paint that as a problem. I don't think that's going to be a huge part of what they're going to do moving forward with Cassidy. And I do think they are going to find ways to utilize it a little bit more as we go on. There are some good offensive defensemen. They have some pieces that can do things. You want to take advantage of all the things we talked about. But where I do think the problem can potentially crop up, and I wrote about it today, is that if you're not going to get that, and I don't think that that's going to be there at the same level. Even if they do start putting some of it back into the game, it's not going to be there at the same level as it was in the past. So then what that means is you need those goals to be made up by the forwards, by how you're generating inside of the zone. And to me, to this point, there's not a lot of passing to shots. Like, if it's not off the rush, they are not generating much danger outside of going from low to high and then ripping it from the point, or generating these off angle shots or things of that sort. Typically, they do turn the puck over before they get anything if they're trying to make that kind of decisive pass that opens things up and makes something happen. To me, the in zone offense is all to blame on the forward group and not the defensive group, because the defensemen are told, get the puck in the hands of the forwards. They're doing that. I don't see a lot of turnovers from the defensemen. Because of that, that's where I see the problems. Not that the defensemen aren't scoring, but that the forwards are not picking up the slack that the defensemen were taking care of last season.
Yeah, I concur with you. I think it's a great analysis. I do think that, when the game plan is to get it to the forwards, that's what you're doing. But right now, who amongst that forward group's making it happen, right? Who's your great distributor amongst this group right now? And really, we've said that for a while now. Who's the great distributor? They've really never had one. They haven't had that number one center pivot. Like, Eichel's not a distributor to me.
No.
And Chandler Stevens,
he can be on a power play. He's not 5-on-5.
To a degree, he can be on the half, but he wants to score, dude.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Right. I guess we'll just put it that way. Whereas
use his speed, use his power,
yeah. We're like a Patrick Kane, somebody that he's just as happy to make a sauce pass backdoor as he is score a goal. You got it. And guess what?
This is a good shout here.
Paul
Passing's the best they've had.
So who's typically those players that we're describing are all homegrown talents for the most part. Well, those don't exist here, and they could have. They don't.
And Nick Suzuki's pretty good at it.
He is not bad.
Him and Krebs has a chance to be pretty good at it.
Yeah, I don't know if Krebs will get there, but like Suzuki boy.
Not it.
No, well, Tuck's still a power right winger that can shoot the puck, but not a distributor whatsoever.
No.
In any case, I'm not sure where it's at because, Carlson's not that. It's just not there. Like, the closest thing at times is
Stevenson will make the right play, hold on to the puck, but he's not going to pick a defense apart.
Yeah. So
are they running
more when you don't have
that's the question we have to go to. Is the Cassidy offense going to actually hinder the Golden Knights more so than what we had seen under DeBoer, where the DeBoer offense was basically, let's work it in, let's get bodies to the goal, and then let's find a way to get on these rebounds. We're going to get a ton of shots from the defense, and then we're going to activate when possible. And a lot of it was played through the blue liners, the 6 blue liners who are good. Is that going to be something they need to go back to, or is this going to eventually work with this forward group?
Simply put it, I don't see Cassidy doing that. Like, it's not how his teams play. And that's like, even in Boston, that was kind of a knack, was how are they going to find that scoring? I mean, that's just how it is. Like, it's a defensive team first in that way. Yep. Just a lot of that was picked up by the power play in Boston. They relied pretty heavily on their special teams.
By the way, that unit is sick. Without Cassidy there, they're still sick.
Dude, that just shows how good David Pastrnak is. Because Marchand's not even in the lineup.
Oh, my God.
Bergeron and Pastrnak.
It's insane.
Two homegrown talents. No surprise.
But I guess that's kind of my point, is when you watch other teams, and specifically better teams, and I don't think Calgary necessarily was doing this at a high level last night. I'm talking about the Tampas and the Colorados, and Boston has it with that line. Carolina has the ability to do this. They get the puck in the offensive zone, and there's movement and passes that generate the dangerous chances. It's not getting it immediately before the defense sets up, or shooting a shot, getting on the rebound, and then getting it again before the defense sets up. That's what it feels like the Golden Knights are more reliant on. And I think if they're going to succeed without having the reliance from shots from the point, I think they're going to have to get more pass to shot option. And they're just not getting that at this point. I don't know with the lineup that they currently have how that's going to work. I would rather see Cassidy change it up and go to, let's get Pietrangelo activated and get numbers advantages down low. Let's take more chances and find a way to make this happen. I don't see that happening, and I don't think that that's going to happen moving forward.
I wouldn't discount, though, that it could morph into that just by the players themselves too.
Right. Just give them the more freedom and go that route. Yeah.
Because coaches aren't dumb for the most part. I mean, like, Cassidy's somebody that if he sees something to start to kind of work by osmosis, he's going to ride that. And I think that, if you start to see Pietrangelo be able to do some things, maybe he takes a page from it. But the problem here is when you hire somebody, they've got a system, they're going to stick to it. They know it works. Yeah. And, for better or worse. And I really do think that this is going to come once at some point, I can't imagine these lines are just going to stay where they are. And lines are always in flux, but there's got to be one line that's really going to start to click at some point. No matter what the makeup of it is, you would have to think. And maybe that's what it's going to take, because, as it is, they can score against the poor teams. Chicago got one goal, but
yeah, I wanted to highlight this here, and that's that it's a new system. It's one game against Calgary. It's a long season. A couple different people have said that, and then calling us, pessimists and whatever. People get mad when we talk the truth after tough games. But here's what I want to say about that. I didn't think the offense generation against LA was good at all. I thought they scored a cheap one off of a rush. I thought they got 2 power play goals, and then they were basically headed to overtime in a game that Quick was.
They got handed it to them.
Right. Should have been in overtime. The second game, Chicago, they did not generate at all. They were not generating much in dangerous areas. Stalock was good because the Golden Knights made him good. It was your classic hot goalie because the Golden Knights make you a hot goalie. Against Seattle, they played against Martin Jones. If you shoot it, it goes in against Martin Jones. I know you're not going to want to hear that as the goalie.
That's not nice.
When the Golden Knights play Martin Jones, if they shoot it, it's going in. Find a way to get to 30, you have 7 goals. That's what's going to happen against Martin Jones. So to me, that game, and even in that game, there's one play the entire game, and it's after it's 4-0, where Eichel wins a battle in the corner, Kessel gets it from underneath the goal, and Theodore does a good job of activating up the middle. That's the play. But to say it's one game, it's a new system, this is going to be there, no, it's not. It's been 250 games. It's been multiple playoff runs. It's been a problem. This team does not generate offense if it's not off the rush. And they're not set up in the current system to play only for rush. That's the one thing that I love that DeBoer did a year ago. He said, we're switching a good neutral zone and we're putting it into something that is different because we think it's going to generate more rush chances for us. I don't think it played out that way, but that was the idea. And by doing that, he said, we're all in on the rush. That's what Gallant did. That's what DeBoer did. I think eventually they're going to have to get back to that because that's the only way the team's going to score.
Boy, think of how good Max Pacioretty was in the rush and even the Don. Yeah. I'm just without that same type of offensive prowess, where are we going to get to? That the problem, it flies in the face of Cassidy's defensive systems to do that.
Right. That's correct.
And that's where that's
correct.
No matter how much we can throw snowballs at cardboard cutouts, I just don't see it happening.
What it comes down to then is the defensive system elite enough to make something happen. And I'll tease a story that I'm running tomorrow that the defensive system, even at its absolute peak, where we're hoping it's headed, isn't that much better than what was here before. There's a very powerful voice saying that in and of itself. Before we go on, let's bring up Jason. And this is going to get confusing because it's not the Jason you're going to think it is. It's a different Jason. Here's Jason. What's up, buddy? How are you?
Good. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Got you
Go
good.
ahead and ask your question. You are, by the way, you are one of our fantastic Winnow subscribers, so thank you for that. And hopefully everyone else will realize that they should be on there because it is great. Winnow.app/SinBin, WINNO.app/SinBin. Go, Jason.
Yeah, my wife is always asking, who am I texting during the game?
Me.
It's you. I just have the name, so I like to mess with her. I'm like,
yeah, it's me.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I had a quick
question. It's good to feel wanted, Ken. It really is. It's
So my question is, clearly we're a couple players short. We're at least one, probably two wingers. I'm going to hold you to the fire. Let's just play hypothetical because that's what we do all the time. What are you going to do to get that player or two? Do you move Brossoit? Can you even do that? Is there any – when I look at the team, I kind of look at you when you look at the power play. They can't move and generate in tight.
Oh, no. Do we lose him?
Oh,
we're back.
He was calling me.
Oh, you got a phone call.
Tell him to take a hike. We got important things to do.
Exactly. So I think it kind of carries over to the power play. Like they don't generate in tight spaces either. I was kind of watching St. Louis right now, and they're amazing on the power play. Like, are our guys just not good enough? Like, plain and simple, just kind of in that phone booth, try to play. And then I guess my other thing was, like, how do you get another player? Because we need – I mean, Kessel's not it. Howden on the second. That can't work.
It's a good question.
We can beat up the Pacific's terrible. I think we can get in the playoffs, but you'll do nothing with those guys playing those roles. So
go ahead.
I'll just be as brutally honest as possible. You talk about St. Louis and how good they look and how they snap it around. You got Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, who are 24, 25, like just entering the prime, explosive, powerful, quick, modern players. Vladimir Tarasenko, who can still absolutely rip a puck, and Ryan O'Reilly is one of the best two-way centers in the game. Those are all pieces that I think are missing. Like, who does Vegas have that's going to win a Selke? Like, it's not William Karlsson. He's not one of the best two-ways like O'Reilly, and O'Reilly drives offense as well. And I think those two young talents in Kyrou and Thomas, I don't see them replicated with Vegas. Your closest replication to wingers like that or centermen like that would probably be, I don't think Eichel's as good a playmaker as Robert Thomas, so it's not there. And I don't think you can trade for a player under the age of 25 to get it.
I think you can.
Vegas Golden Knights even have.
I think you can. Theodore goes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're going to have like a good piece.
Yeah.
So that's what I was going to say. Who is your player? And you know what, Ken, you're actually right. Like, that's the one player you could dangle, but would you really, I guess let's just, can you really see them moving on from Shea Theodore? Could you see it?
Of course. Why not? Like, who's off limits on this team ever?
Yeah. You're right. I'm the one saying, can I see them moving on? And I'm the one saying that.
Yeah, like I guess like the other one would be Karlsson. Marchessault I don't think makes sense. It doesn't really solve the problem if that's
not going to get a player that young anyway unless you slap in the first and second round.
Right. But if you do a Theodore and then you tack on, say, like, and here's the other thing is they do have first round picks. Like I know we understand a little. I think we have a little bit more of a realistic expectation of where they're headed, or at least where they are at the moment, than I would say the owner does and the general managers do. I feel that way. We'll see how it plays out. It didn't look like that when they were 3-0, but it's not that crazy, especially in a world in which the Rams just won the Super Bowl, having traded every single pick in the future. It's not that crazy to think they could trade 3 first-round picks. And you get the pick of the litter at that point, like whoever you want
on an offer sheet. Imagine if they offer sheeted somebody next year. That'd be wild.
I mean, I don't like the offer sheet because it's a double whammy, and that's why I usually don't like trades either. Sometimes, at least in that case, is because you're paying for a player both in picks, and then you're also paying his salary. Now, if you can get a player who makes $2 million, that's a $7 million player, and you give up 2 first-round picks to get it, that's fine. Brandon Hagel's the example of that, by the way.
Yeah, I think they team, like Toronto, you got like the top tier, then a lot of people making $1 million, and then you have people like Boston who get Pasternak and people on $6 million deals, or Marchand. I mean, it didn't win them a cup, but I think it's just more flexibility in that team than when you just pay 60% of your money goes to like 4 players or whatever it is. It's hard.
Great great example of this is the team you talked about in St. Louis. And by the way, Pasternak's not going to take another $6.5 million or whatever. He's going to get absolutely paid now. Boston's always had a rep for being really cheap with their players. Like minor league players, it was always, God, they're cheap. They're so cheap. Like, which is wild because they got more money than Davy Crockett. But like the Blues, the GM there, Doug Armstrong, is, pretty well known for saying, like, I would rather have a bunch of $7 and $8 million guys than have a couple of tens on that club.
He proved it with Pietrangelo. Like, you can't prove it more than that.
He put the toe in the sand there, and I have a hard time disagreeing with that because the Blues they're always a contender, and last year
Golden Knights team.
Yeah, last year if St. Louis could have gotten one more piece of the deadline, they might have really made a run. And if Kadri hadn't run over Bennington, like St. Louis gave Colorado the hardest time anybody in the playoffs, if you ask me. So I think there's something to that. And right now you look at Vegas, you got 10, 9.5, 8.8, and a lot of really pretty big middle value contracts at this point.
That are playing to their contract, not playing above their contract. That's the challenge. Is if you had a Jonathan Marchessault $5 million playing at a $9 million level, okay, but they don't.
Yeah. So
they need to develop. They're not developing at a rate that, even though it's 5 years in, 6 years in, I understand that it takes time. They traded away some, but it doesn't feel like they're hitting on much. I don't know if you guys think that. I mean,
they're hitting on NHL level players. They're not hitting on star players. Like they've got 4, 5, 6 guys that are going to potentially be NHL players. I don't think that they have the difference maker. And there's an argument to be made that they shouldn't have it because of where they've selected throughout much of the draft. They've made these trades and that's how that goes. And they've actually done an okay job drafting. I can hear that argument to a degree. But when you're in the window you're in, you've got to find a way to get one of those guys. And they had it in Nick Suzuki.
All right, last one. If Logan Thompson plays great the rest of the year, which I'm not sold on, but he's like at 2.4, 2.5, does it make it interesting with Leonard next year for you, Mike, or no?
I don't think Leonard plays again.
At all.
For us? Or
I just don't think listen, I have no insider knowledge of this at all. You think about the number of surgeries he's gone through. Let's go double hip, shoulder. He's going to miss an entire year of hockey, and he's 33 at the end of when he comes out next year. Would be 33.
I think 32, 33. Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I'll look for it right now. I got it. He's next year. He'll be
32. Yeah.
I don't think he's going to play again. That's my guess. And I'm telling you, I have no insider knowledge on this. So I just know how difficult it is to come back. Like even Anton Hudobin in Dallas, like he came back for almost a year off and he couldn't crack the NHL this year. It's just that hard after that time off. And
Leonard's better than Anton Hudobin ever was, though.
Oh, not that cup run, dude. Hudobin, I don't know what he was he was unbelievable.
I mean, Leonard's done it over years and years here. Like I don't know.
But I mean, I just look at Leonard's body, and just frankly, Leonard's body, he's a big body, man. Yeah. He's not getting younger. Like it's a lot of wear and tear. So I'm not sold to play again. That's just a guess.
Is Fleury shot or no?
No. Okay. I think Fleury's just trying too hard right now. That first game or two, like he had 2 or 3 go in off the top that were just like absolute backdoor layups. And then from there, I could see him start to press. He's going paddle down. He whiffed on a point shot. Like he had the red mist going, so he'll be fine.
They're terrible right now. I mean, it's early. Yeah. It's weird watching hockey this early because whoever's buttoned up wins. It's not like the good teams really that are like dominating. I think Tampa's one.
Philly.
Philly, they lost, but they played pretty good against the Panthers.
Florida.
Stuff together seems to eat wins in that.
Yeah, well, you make a great point, man. I think you're spot on. Like, and I live that. Like, if you could play defense to start the season, anything can happen. But it does. Like Philly, I don't think Philly's going to be there at the end of the year. But it's the Tortorella effect. Like, I had them picked 6th in the Metro or 6th in their division as opposed to 8th, and that blew a lot of people away. Like I had them ahead of the Islanders and the Devils. And people were like, "You're crazy." I'm like, John Tortorella is not going to finish in last place. And it was the same thing. I picked the board to finish 2nd in the Central with Dallas. People are like,
scary. Dallas looks good.
Yeah. You know why? Because Tyler Sagan's healthy. And that young talent that came, Hintz, Robertson, That came from Heiskanen, that came from within.
There's more coming too.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Fast.
Yeah, so.
Look, and then they play his style, which probably fits him maybe. Who was the last coach for Dallas? That was an awful.
Rick Bowness.
Rick Bowness, who's in Winnipeg now. So, and they rode the wave with him.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Bones, but he's not a button down type of defensive, or not a button down system guy like Pete. It's just, we all know. I mean, is Dallas going to score in playoffs, man? Yep. Like they didn't do that previously. Now they got to do that under Pete if they get there. So
good stuff, Jason. We're gonna let you go and bring in the other Jason.
Talk.
You're awesome. That was fantastic. Let's bring in the other Jason, and I'm gonna throw one straight at you right away here. You ready for this? Please let them buy Patrick Kane. He's worth it.
So they're just going to keep kicking it down the hallway, street, whatever you want to say. And, okay, here's my question. Let's be honest, Ken. Get it? Let's be honest.
Shout out to Jason for just taking his shirt off while the camera was still on as he was still in the
Did he take his tarp off?
Not me, Jason. The other Jason.
It was just immediate. Just I booted him, and then there's immediately a topless dude down in the thing. Wow, that was fantastic.
All right, here's the real question for both of you. Patrick Kane apparently is sitting back, waiting to choose his own team to be traded to. Why would he choose the Vegas Golden Knights? Now, Ken had a good answer the other night.
Am I supposed to give it again? Oh, is that what you want? You want me to give the answer again?
I want to hear this. Yeah.
Who in God's name wouldn't want to spend 4 months in Las Vegas? Like, it's fun. It's nice. It's a great place to live. It's super easy to get to the rink. It's not going to be that pressure packed for him, even if he comes here. Why wouldn't you want to come here? And if you do come here and you succeed, you're the hero. So I don't see why he wouldn't. And my biggest piece is Pat Kane's not sitting here saying, I must get my name engraved in the cup before I'm done. No, it's fucking on there 3 times already.
I think it's easy to go play it for Vegas for a few months. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you walk in and the team's really good, I don't know. No matter everything that's happened, Vegas is still a really attractive place to go play.
100%. It will continue.
Why is Colorado not an attractive place? Why is maybe Minnesota? Why is St. Louis? You brought up St. Louis.
They all are.
They all are. Yeah. It's just who's going to fit that mold. Like Doug Armstrong in St. Louis is never going to go for Patrick Kane with the assets he'd have to give up. It's now 3-1 St. Louis over Seattle. It happened in the span of about 2 minutes. I mean, everybody thinks the Rangers on Patrick Kane, and I could potentially see that as a rental. I don't know about a long-term anything there, but I could easily see him there. That thing is, like, if you're a player who's from Buffalo, has lived in Chicago forever, coming to the West Coast is a pretty big swing. Like, it's actually, like, it's a long way away. And I know that sounds insane because you play where you play.
You did.
But Vegas is kind of like the one place where you're like, oh yeah, I'll just go live at the Bellagio for wherever for a couple months, whatever. Like, it's even a little bit different than, like, I was hosting Sirius XM the other day and we had Kevin Fiala on, and like I asked him about what it's like just walking out of the rink and everything. He's like, yeah, I'm actually on the beach right now. I was like,
I was gonna say, but what's wrong with Anaheim and LA? Those are nice spots too.
The problem there is, though, that it's not the same ease of access like Vegas. Like, you could stay in a hotel, but you're still kind of like in downtown LA and stuff. Like, Vegas is just easy like that, man. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't see Patrick Kane fitting in any way in Vegas with his from cap hit to other things. I mean, we've all seen this has happened before. If they could get late enough in the year that they could bring it down enough and ship a few out, who knows?
Yeah, but where does that put them?
And Zach.
But where does that put them next year? Aren't we talking about?
I don't care.
So they have to win this year if they make the move for Patrick.
Year 6, Jason's year 6. Yes. Or
that was actually part of the Granger interview with Foley today. Was basically saying, like, hey there, buddy, it's year 6. You were pretty loud about winning in year 6, and he kind of backed off a little bit of it. Basically, the quote is wild. It's something along the lines of, like, we lost twice in the conference finals, and I don't know how that happened because we were better than both of those two teams. It's like, okay, all right, fine. I mean, we thought that in the moment, but when the series is over, I don't think we should think that anymore. But whatever. He kind of
in 6 games
a little bit. Like, It's not quite the same as what he was saying. But I do think if they flame out early in the playoffs, if they don't make the playoffs at all, yeah, there's going to be more changes. And what are first round picks if you're going to get fired as a front office?
You know what Sidney Crosby would call that? A loser mentality.
Yes.
He says anytime he lost the cup, doesn't matter if it was, a long series, Mike, he said that was a loser mentality. Anytime that you said you were better than the other team that won, it's loser mentality. I don't think Foley means that. I really don't. I think this is a little bit of lip service because, frankly, he knows in business he's won how many times, right? So if he's going into accepting that they're, second place all the time or coming up short, I honestly, it doesn't seem to fit his character.
There's a whole lot of humble pie when super wealthy people get into sports franchise ownership, dude. Like, I remember when Vinny Viola took over the Florida Panthers, and it was this whole same thing, right? Like, he's won the Kentucky Derby, right? And all these other things. Well, yeah, you can buy the best horse sperm on the planet and make a super horse. You can't necessarily build a franchise, like it's a lot harder when you got 20 moving parts on the ice to go win. And
we'll see what he does with Bournemouth. I bet you he goes out and buys a bunch of players with that. Like, he ain't going to like relegation. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So it's just so hard to win. And you get this hubris of always having been able to just make it happen, right? I've been successful in everything else. I can do it here too. And that was the hardest part of getting all that initial success, man, because you get that little taste. It's like, man, this is it. Let's do it. And I've never been in those meetings. I have no idea how much pull he has. I have none. It does concern me when I hear an owner that, I don't think he I don't think he was a hockey fan until,
Not
this
really.
team came on the radar, really. So let's say 6-7 years.
Does he have to be though?
No, I don't think so. But just to give interviews about what the team needs and the players and we're better than and everything else.
What he's hearing from his front office, to me, they're not his opinions.
I would not just. I think that it's all in concert, but
isn't he
a lot of it's reflected in it.
Isn't he accepting? I don't want to say a losing culture, but isn't he accepting that losing is okay?
Not yet. They fired all coaches. They've changed every single player on the face of the planet. They've come up with a new hashtag. What else do you want?
Yeah. Well, it's still the Golden Knight's still the same. I'm happy about that because he's a good dude and he's a great Golden Knight.
Different armor.
Did they give him some different armor this year?
A little shinier. I was expecting when I heard he had different armor, I was waiting for it to be a lot different. I don't know what I was actually expecting, and then I saw it. And by the way, I don't know. Did we do this since the opener? Since the home opener? No, we didn't. Right? This is since the last home opener. They announced all the players, and they all got in a circle around Lee, the Golden Knight. And then when they said your 2022, 23 Golden Knights, they all hit the ice with the sticks and put them in the air. It was a cool moment. But it was super awkward as a whole. Just building up to that moment was super awkward because they weren't really in the circle, and then they had to fill the circle in towards the end. And then there's Zach Whitecloud and Braden McNabb, number 2 and number 3, that are out there for 4 minutes waiting for the high school graduation where they announce every single person's name, and they are just staring at Lee the entire time. It was weird, but the moment was sick. They hit the ice and then did it. I still just want to comment on that.
Can we give Zach Whitecloud the big balls award because he was eating pucks last game? God, the poor guy.
Is that an award we have, or how does that?
I don't know, but he just was
the
eating.
nutsack from
he
the
was.
Trucks. Why do
truck nuts? Those are called truck nuts. Truck nuts in the Midwest are a big thing.
Those?
Oh, do I have those?
Yeah,
I don't
seem like you'd be a truck nuts guy.
I'm not a Hoosier. I don't drive a truck. No, yeah. I don't know.
If you had a truck,
I drive a sports sedan. I drive an Acura TLX sports sedan.
What is that? What is the point of the nuts? I don't get it.
It's to make up for your tiny ones.
Your lack of them.
Prove to everybody that honestly, truck nuts are just to prove everybody you're an asshole. That's
so. Moving forward, we're going to have to find some sort of award that is the Big Balls Award, and
yeah.
The inaugural Big Balls Award winner is Zach Whitecloud.
I am not a BMW. Somebody said I'm a BMW guy. No, man, I'm a Honda /
I'm apparently a Volkswagen guy.
Ooh.
So anyway, can we get back?
Are you guys asking now that our listeners send in pictures of their truck balls?
No, we didn't say that.
So that's not what the reward.
Now, I will say that it is something that we should keep an eye on of Big Balls of the Week award. I do think that that's something that if you have a nominee, and I want to make this clear, it doesn't have to be someone on the Golden Knights on the ice. If you feel as though, say, like Lee, the Golden Knight, does something that deserves the Big Nutsack of the Week award, like I'm in for anything. I'll take all candidates, and I do think that should be something we should be focused on probably pretty keenly for the rest of the season.
What about William Karlsson's boarding last night? I mean, that was a little risky. Could have started a little bit of a but you could have started a little bit of a scrum going on, but
smart at all.
Does this team have much bite to you guys?
I didn't feel it last night. I'm not sure I'm ready to say that yet because they did kind of bully around the three teams that they played. I wouldn't call it bite. I wouldn't say that it was they're out there being dickheads, but they were the bigger, stronger team in the first two games. And if that's the case, do you need bite? I don't know.
I don't think they have anybody that'll blow a snot rocket on somebody, and that disappoints me.
That's
just a greasy bastard.
That in the Big Balls award, I'm trying to figure out what qualifies. And a timeout. Have you ever done this?
Blown a snot rocket on somebody?
Blown a snot rocket at another human?
No, I haven't.
In the way.
That's right. Connor will. There it is. Connor will do it. He's the snot rocket champion. That's it. Hey, all right. So, since I wasn't in the building for it though, what was the vibe like for opening?
It's different. I think there's definitely a different feel. I think everybody's kind of cautiously optimistic at that moment. Mm-hmm. Everyone's kind of coming in. It's a minus 355 game, so they're 85% to win the game, and then it ends up coming out, and they actually probably should have lost the first period. So when you look back, it's everyone's kind of got that feeling of they kind of want to be proven again, we want to be back in. But everybody, it doesn't matter who you are over the course of the time of the 5 years. And I'm not sure if this is a Golden Knights problem or if it's a new fan base problem or whatever. But I feel over the course of the 5 years, it's impossible to be a Golden Knights fan and not have been hurt by something in the last 5 years, whether it's ticket prices or players going in and out or something that happens on the ice that you didn't like or a coach you didn't like or whatever. I feel it's hard and they have to find a way to get everybody back. And I don't think just saying everyone hates us, we're the new misfits. I don't think it's believable yet to fans, and they need to prove it. 3-0 helped, but you got to do it against teams like Calgary, and they didn't last night.
Yeah, and they still could. I'm not writing this team off by any stretch, but I don't see it unless there's some growth at least. But I have a lot of friends in Vegas now, and they just keep telling me people are pissed, man.
It's not
they're just pissed. But I think Vegas can still earn that back. That's the thing, And
the only thing is, when it comes to season tickets and it comes to high prices, there's nothing the team can do about that. So
sure they can.
Fans are going to be ticked off as it is.
For a seat in the corner for a season ticket holder for 80 or 45 games. They don't have to do that. They can. They'll get away with it and people will pay it, so they're allowed to do it. But to say there's nothing they can do about it, you can have $25 night. You can have $10 night if you want and just charge for beer. I disagree.
There's a fine line. There's a fine line there. I'd heard this an awful lot about giving the gate away. If you can charge it, you want to charge it.
Of course.
But you also don't want to go to an exorbitant sum where you really anger people. And that usually happens when year to year you see prices rise drastically. People can handle incremental price increases. Rate of inflation has obviously been a thing in the last year or so here, but they were already late, but they were already raising these way in advance of that in the first place. So I think that people in general are always wired to complain, but until ticket sales fall off, how do you know that precipice? And that's where you have to be really cautious with it, because if you push too far, you can go over the cliff. But if you push right up to the edge and you're kind of cautious about it, and you make sure you've got a safety net, you can continue to raise prices and raise revenues without just straight up making everybody say enough of this, and Vegas is still kind of unique, man. There's so much disposable income in Vegas. Like, it's like no other city that I've seen like that. Like, yeah, it's totally different ball game, man. The amount of money that people spend on everyday things in Vegas versus other areas where I'd lived, like it's just different. Like, look at the restaurants per person in Vegas. Like, every strip mall, everybody eats out every meal. Like, it's
because it's awesome.
That's not Midwestern, like,
and that's why it's better here.
Yeah.
Mike, you had mentioned the Bruins, and they print money, and for the most part, that's true. Jeremy Jacobs is a very wealthy man, but the fans are not a fan of him. They think that he's sort of an absentee owner. And you were talking about raising prices to the point, and they have over the years. They're in a deep fourth place in Boston, and they'll never get out of it. Because of the prices, maybe because they negotiate,
the major professional sports.
You would even consider, and for somebody like myself, not from being from Boston or from New England, like they even tier below like the Celtics.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And there's a big gap. There's a big gap because we mentioned, you had mentioned it from the start. I mean, Pasternak's going to cost at least $10 million, right? And
has to be. It's got to start with it.
And if they're not starting there with him, who knows how that plays out? But over the years,
the money's tricky. Like when you call a team cheap on your players and you say, I don't want to give the extra money to the players, the fans should be on board with that in most situations because it's our money. If you're a fan of a team, it's your money because there's a salary cap. When you're a fan of baseball, it's not your money, so there's not. So like to say that they're cheap, I don't think that's necessarily fair because that's a good thing. If they can sign Pasternak for 8.2, the fans should be celebrating.
I meant when I say they're cheap, it's like this was all through the minors. They just will not pay minor league guys. They won't buy they'll cheap out on even like equipment and things.
Well,
right?
That's not good. Yeah, that's a problem.
There was just a reputation for if they could cut a corner on something, they would. So. If your general manager can get a deal on a contract, that's amazing.
Take it. Yeah.
You have to. It's just hardball. It's the way it should be. But that stuff does eventually catch up to you too. Like I really believe
Bruins
that.
are fourth in Boston. Where are the Golden Knights in Vegas at the moment?
Good question.
Well, I think they're one.
I don't. I think that the NFL and the Raiders are just so much bigger than this league. I know that this fan base, we think it's a big fan base, which the Golden Knights are. They do have a big fan base, but there's nothing bigger than the NFL.
Yeah, but I don't think that the pressure that's on the Raiders from the town is the same way that the pressure is on the Golden Knights from the town. Where like the Raiders are expected to not be great, and when they're not great, it's everyone's like, "Oh, woe is me. We're the Raiders again." They sign a dummy head coach. I'm allowed to say that because I don't cover the Raiders. And everyone's like, yeah, they're the Raiders. Where if I feel for the Golden Knights, you go to the grocery store and the Golden Knights are struggling, you can feel it at different times. You could feel when they traded Marc-Andre Fleury. And I know we live in the bubble. Like I get that we live in the Golden Knights bubble and that it's harder for us to see it. But like there is that feel that like things aren't going the way we like. And it does wear on the town, I feel like a little bit more than the Aces and Liz Cambage does whatever dumb shit she did, or the Raiders or the whoever Aviators have nothing.
I don't even know what the Aces are.
They won the WNBA championship.
I like this is how far removed I am from basketball. I don't care about basketball.
It's women's basketball, yeah.
Yeah, but that still I don't care.
Yeah, they won the championship. They were a fun team. They had a parade. It was a blast. Like they're fun, but again, like my point is that the pressure on them is not there. Like had they not won the championship, nobody's upset really. I mean, you would be in the moment, but for here,
but it's a 2-1 fan base.
Again, we got a problem. Like the city's going to be unhappy to say the least. Like no matter what Max Pacioretty says about nobody being that upset about it, they are going to be upset about it. I think the fans are upset about things.
I agree with
Yeah,
that.
I mean, listen, I think Golden Knights fans are about as dedicated as a fan base can get. The only thing is, like you just said, Ken, we all live in this Golden Knights bubble. Hockey's my number one favorite sport.
Yeah,
I think everybody in our chat is as well.
You would
Clearly,
think.
Mike. Well, although Mike, are you like a NASCAR fan and then an
F1,
NHL
right?
fan, or
IndyCar is my passion, really. It would have to go IndyCar and F1. I watch every race. I'm much more of an IndyCar
Who's your
fan.
driver in Formula One?
I don't have favorite drivers.
What?
No, I don't.
You have a team?
No, I am completely agnostic towards favorites.
What does that mean? How do you watch?
Why? Because we've had probably 5 family friends killed racing.
Oh, geez.
Well, that would lead me to believe you wouldn't want to watch it at all.
It's hard to explain. It just.
But so like I
mean, my favorite driver was Greg Bohr. He was a Canadian guy. He was a goaltender. He was from Western Canada, from BC. He was unbelievable. He was killed Halloween 1999 live TV, and from that point forward, I'm not having favorite drivers. I still love the sport. I love racing. I accept watching it. It might be bad things that happen, but how do
you watch it? Like, what are you looking for? Like, what is exciting?
Racing, on track, passing, like strategy play out. Like,
you just cheer for it could be anyone.
I'd love to see a good race, man. I love to see overtaking. I love to see drivers have a great day on track that you don't expect. There's a lot of variables to it. Wow. And that's why IndyCar is so different than F1. So like F1 is going to be an absolute snooze of a race in Vegas, and everybody say it was amazing. The race is going to suck on that track.
You're not coming.
Why? Why is it going to suck?
That track layout is going to, because Max Verstappen, I'll tell you exactly what will happen. Max Verstappen is going to get out to a 20-second lead. He's never going to relinquish it. He's going to drive around. It's going to be a big parade. There's 2 passing zones tops, and everybody's going to go hog wild about it. And the on-track action itself is going to be garbage.
Wow.
But for locals and newbies like me, we'll probably think it's pretty cool.
Oh, hell yeah. The sounds and the sights and everything, just to see, like, it is a visually stunning thing to see a Formula One car in person. To see them accelerate and decelerate in corner, it'll take your breath away. There's no doubt. But F1 is a spectacle of technology versus a spectacle of racing, like IndyCar. And I would say NASCAR falls closer to IndyCar. Like, IndyCar, you probably have 12 drivers. I won't say 12. Let's say every race probably has 8 guys that could probably win versus F1 that has 1.5.
2, yeah.
So, and I've been a fan of this stuff forever, and suddenly everybody's an F1 fan because there's a Netflix series, and I try to get people to watch it for the better part of my 39 years on this planet. So
Netflix, everyone's a Welcome to Wrexham fan now in soccer too. Everyone's all pumped about them. Meanwhile, my shitty Italian team's out here dominating Coppa Italia. Let's get back to the Golden Knights.
Let's do that. And by the way, can we talk, like, I saw Henderson had attendance of 3,900 the first one of the nights. I'm curious to see how
that place feels good, though. That's a fun place to go. Like, I'm impressed. Let me say this. I'm impressed by some of the traditions that have popped up there that I was always kind of wondering, like, how much are they going to try to just mimic the Golden Knights, and how much are they going to do some different things? And there are some traditions that are fun there that I think are cool. And it is a different experience going to a game there. It is a different experience to sit in a 6,000 seat stadium. It's good. That's an enjoyable place to go watch a game. Brendan Brisson on the third line in the second power play, not as enjoyable.
That's not where I expected him to start the year. But that's, $4,000 in that building's pretty good, but I bet 2 years from now, you're going to see that it'd be about 2,500 people.
I would agree. Let's move to someone who is the first line center and first power play unit, and somebody who should be dominating that didn't last night. And then the clip that I showed is all too familiar for those of us who have watched him very intently over the course of the last few years. And I can't say I watched every Jack Eichel game, but the moment I seemed it was possible, I wanted to learn more about what's actually going on here. I got to learn more about it, and that clip is not new. Jack Eichel takes one hard stride and then glides around for between 7 and 9 seconds as the puck is put in right in front of his face. He's standing in the blue paint. Like, what do we do here?
That was the captain of the Buffalo Sabres. You wonder why a team doesn't win when you're straight up, when your captain doesn't work, defensive side of the puck. And that's going to have to stop if Vegas wants to be good. The problem is, how deep into his career is this? 8th year in the 8th year in the league? People don't change at that point, man. Like, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get that. You're going to get him completely turn off occasionally like that.
Did you happen to catch the play earlier in that period? Ken, I think you did as well. He was in his own zone. They were breaking out, and he had two mans kind of collapsing on him a little bit, and he just dished the puck all the way to the other side. And sure enough, I forget who picked. Yeah, somebody. I forget who it was. A Golden Knight tried to get it and created. He caused a penalty because of it. So
it ends up being the Martinez, or I'm sorry, the McNabb trip. It's on an exit that is there, and the simple, proper play is to just flip that thing off the boards and out, or flip it up and out. He has the skill to do it, and it's a problem. That there are moments, and there are going to continue to be moments where he shuts off, and it's specifically in games where it's not going well offensively, and those games are going to happen, and that was one of those games last night.
Yeah, well, if you want Eichel to be Bergeron, boy, you better keep sending clips. Like, Patrice Bergeron would be one of the first people I'd take on my team.
The comment from Alexandra is Cassidy told Jeff Merrick on the Jeff Merrick show that he wants Eichel to be like Bergeron, and then she added the laughing emoji, which I believe is an editorial decision there.
I think every player in the league wants to be like Patrice Bergeron. I want to be like Patrice Bergeron, how he plays. Like, he's
well, didn't they say right away, Nick Suzuki? They said that's who they want him to turn into, is Patrice Bergeron, and he's going to have a bright career, of course, but it's a little high.
Yeah, it's tough. That's pretty good hockey
hair, right? Yeah, I want Patrice Bergeron's hair.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
By the way, Mike, you mentioned two things that sort of stood out. I don't want this to come off wrong, but do you think that the Golden Knights would even want Robin Leonard to come back next year?
That's a question I don't think I can even answer. Let's take this from a salary cap standpoint.
That's sort of where I'm going, health and salary.
Because that's what I'm going to take this purely from a salary cap standpoint. If I'm an NHL general manager and my former number one goaltender just missed an entire year of hockey, I would absolutely not want that $5 million on the books.
And especially since you don't know what he's going to be like when he's healthy.
That's what I mean. I don't think, and especially if you've got Logan Thompson sitting in there at 766, 66.7. If this year goes as we expect it to for Thompson, which at this point I think is safe to say that he's going to prove that he can be a number one goalie. I don't really see different than that. I don't know the top end. I don't know if he's going to be a star. I don't know this year what it's going to look like, but I think Thompson will prove that he can play number one minutes. I don't see that $5 million of Robbins being good for the team in terms of, I mean, can he even live up to that, close to it? Double hip surgery, shoulder surgery, everything.
What are they going to do, though? He's not going to say, I'm not going to play. If he can play, he's on the roster, and they're not getting rid of him because who is going to take him?
I have no good answer for that. That's a conundrum that I don't know because, I mean, the way things finished last year, remember how weird that got when he was hurt and then he was basically had to dress another game while hurt, even though
they put out a press release to say he had a maintenance day.
Yeah. Even though he was really, really effing hurt.
It wasn't
told that he was fine and available. So I can't imagine that there's a lot of desire from either side. I'm just guessing here that I can't imagine.
What do you do? You just force him on LTIR for the rest of his career and his hockey days are over? Like, how does that work?
Well, if the person's body doesn't, if they can't pass a physical and blah blah blah, but I mean, I could even see this. Like, could you imagine this scenario? Imagine if, and again, I got no clue here, but imagine if like the way that ended last year was so bad and negative and made enough people angry that it's like, hey, I'm healthy now. You got to eat my cap hit.
Yes, that's what's going to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen.
I can legit see that happening.
Yes,
and not like this isn't. I don't think something that is a drastic measure that we're going, oh, that would never. No, that could happen.
That's the favorite.
Yeah. So I don't know what happens in that scenario. I don't.
Well, that's a positive.
Do you think Laurent Brossoit is going to play for the Golden Knights this year?
I do.
I mean, I do, because they pay him a good amount of money. They haven't seen him play as much as they'd like to. And again, how many times has Cassidy said, we have a group of guys, we have Brossoit in the mix. He's never, ever said, we're not considering Brossoit. He's never mentioned Logan and Aiden by themselves. He always throws Brossoit in there. And Ken, you hear it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible Brossoit's the best of the options. Like, there's no reason he can't be. And if the system is playing the way that it should be, there's a legitimate reason to think he could be the best one. I think they have a built-in easy play too. You just throw Logan Thompson through waiver exempt. It's no problem. You don't even have to carry 3 goalies. You just chuck them off the roster for a day. What does it matter?
I do not see him going through.
He's not going to play a game in the AHL.
No, he's not.
But it doesn't matter. Like, it's a paper transaction, and they'll find a lake that Lawless can stand next to in Anaheim to explain why that this is what's happening.
Did he give away his pin yet, or was he pinless?
That's the end of the show.
That happened for Brandon Peary. I still think that's one of the moments in Golden Knights lore that when I eventually write the book, happy to talk about the dysfunction, it's going to be one hell of a moment that I have in there. I want to throw a shout out to my buddy John here. Yes, I have the USA soccer jersey on. My other jerseys came in: Brazil, Portugal, and Croatia, and my Belgium one is on the way. Argentina. I'm pumped about this. It's fantastic. Yes, Chris is right. LT is paper exempt. No one can.
I mean, they can move him on paper, sure, but
correct. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't think it's hard for them to do that.
Put a Nick's comment there, because that is 100% what will happen. Fan base will shit their pants.
He doesn't go on waivers though.
Okay, but even if the paper transaction, they will
sending them down, sending him to the American League, even with a paper transaction, will cause the funniest Twitter backlash we've ever. Like, you might as well just get the screenshots going, because the people that don't understand how that works are going to go crazy if it does happen. Like, it could. Ken, you are right that it could happen on paper this year at some point, for sure. It really
probably will. Again, I think it's the favorite.
I think this city's going to pull out their truck nuts if that happens.
The thing is, though, he's on a 2-way this year, and he's losing money if that happens. And
the big Tommy Lobby is not going to be happy with that.
You guys are nuts.
I mean, to me, you have to try it. Like, there's no reason to not try Laurent Brossoit, to not try Aiden Hill, to not try Logan Thompson, and put them through these fires throughout the course of the first 2 or 3 months of the season. You don't want any of them playing 55 to 60 games anyway, because none of them are good enough to do it, at least based on what's been proven at this point. So
we're getting blown up.
Why not?
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I don't say this with any malice to Lorenz. I think he's a good goaltender. It just, like last year, I think we really learned that the injuries crushed him last year with Brossoit. Really,
yes.
And is he going to get a chance to rectify that? Because I honestly thought last year, and we've gone through this ad nauseum, but I thought that Brossoit signed that deal with Vegas 2 years, knowing that there's probably somebody coming along and Thompson that's going to end up taking his job. But the thought was, hey, Leonard gets hurt a decent amount. Maybe I'll get to play a lot. Maybe I'll show well, and I'll get to be a number 1 somewhere. That was my thought on Brossoit, why he would have taken that.
Well, what about Edmonton? Money. What about the Maple Leafs? I mean, there's some, goalie.
He won't be back in it. He won't be back in Edmonton. The Maple Leafs are, and that's what Maple Leafs could happen. There's the Leafers are in one when it comes to goalies, so we'll see.
This is my face to that comment. For those on the podcast, Christopher says, you want the same guys who screwed up the Dodonov trade to pull off a paper transaction. Yeah, there's a lake somewhere. Thanks again to the Jimerson Law Firm for sponsoring Goalie Interference. We appreciate it. When winning matters, seek out the Jimerson Law Firm. Thanks to Jason and the other Jason who took his shirt off immediately after going off camera. Oh, no, they both did it. This is terrible.
I'm going to have my tarp on for next one.
You all are so lucky that you're listening to this on the podcast instead of watching this live. And to those of you who stream it on the TV, you're nuts. Good night, everyone.